Okay, we're going to get started here. Good afternoon again. Tim Goff, CEO, founder of My Ground Force, hosts a webinar series this fall, how to maximize your ROI in your FedEx ground contracting business, though the word FedEx ground is no longer no longer an active reference. We're trying to bring to you different elements of the business that you don't usually get information related to presented to you to help you understand the various levers that you can pull to improve your profitability, right? We're not going to earn, my message to you has been, you're not going to earn your way out of this, right? Volume is flat. We saw another big trucking company go bankrupt yesterday, 250 trucks turned in, a whole bunch of folks unemployed. So the depression that's going on in the general trucking market is still there. Volume is flat in the FedEx world till at least the second half of 2025. And so if you're going to improve your profitability every year, you have to control the things that you can control. And so then instead of earning your way out of this, the way we've always done in our history as contractors, now you've got to really be good at looking internal and identifying those pieces of your business that you can improve the performance of related to cost. We've talked about capital, we've talked about labor, and we've talked about fuel. But in this particular series, we also now talked about using machine vision and artificial intelligence with motive on how to use that information you're getting from your cameras to improve your profitability. Last week, we had a great conversation with Southern Tire Mart, and we talked about what is a tire? How is a tire constructed? How do you know what kind of tires to buy? What is the right tire program for your company? What's the right cost performance of your tires? How to maximize the value of the tires based on how you buy them. So we had a very in-depth conversation. The feedback on that has been very good. I think a lot of folks, including me, learned some things about tires we didn't know. Now, this week, we're going to talk about what to do once you own a tire. So you own a tire. Now, how do you make sure that you get the maximum value out of that investment? You know, a new set of tires for a tractor can cost you $8,000. And that's if you're getting the great pricing. We just put that poll question out. Are you confident that you have a reliable system by which you can ensure that all the tires in your fleet are fully inflated? And we had a 100% response rate of no. So then I would say that this particular conversation today is very timely. On the call with us today, we have the experts from Pressure Systems International. Again, I'm going to refer to them as PSI. We have VP of Global Sales, Kelly Taub. She's going to do our presentation. It's an outstanding presentation. You're going to learn some things you didn't know about things you weren't expecting to hear today. I know I did. And then we also have Jim Herzog, who is the regional sales director for in the U.S., and he's responsible for the My Ground Force account. And you're going to hear it again during this presentation, but at My Ground Force, we have this partnership with PSI that allows you to purchase a tire pressure management system at large fleet pricing. If you were to try to go do it yourself, you could only purchase it through distribution, and it would cost you $500 more for hardware and 3 times the cost for monthly monitoring. And so we'll get more in depth in that as we go along. But what I'm going to do is welcome aboard Kelly. And Al, if you could take that title slide down. And we're going to turn the presentation over to Kelly. She's going to share her screen and take us through the presentation. Welcome aboard, Kelly. We appreciate you and Jim being here today.
Thank you very much. The information on your fleet at your fingertips. In 2022, we were acquired by Clariance Technologies, who you might realize or are familiar with, like the Truck Light Road Ready Fleet Tiller brand. 2023 launched Digital Thermal Alert and the Tire View Live app. And then just recently, we acquired Safe Fleet as part of the Clariance umbrella and now part of a $1.5 billion company. Some of our customers, some of which you might recognize, but a lot of these folks have our systems running on their assets.
Kelly, if I might interrupt, if you could click on the little slideshow icon at the bottom of PowerPoint there, we'd be able to see this a lot better.
Let's see. And it does show a slideshow in mine, which is interesting. So you're not seeing it that way in yours?
Nope.
Must have to do it then.
At least I'm not seeing it. Or Jim, are you seeing it in presentation mode or in edit mode there?
No, I just see it in edit mode. If you go down by where it says the 100 plus, there's a little button there that makes it go into presentation mode.
Right.
The light activation.
Oh, I'm seeing it. I don't know what's going on here.
Everybody else seeing the light activation?
Here, I apologize for these problems, folks. Just give us a minute here.
Nail and you see something in your tire. So I just encourage you, we've got this QR code under the light, and it's a driver video about 4 minutes long that really is a nice in-depth overview of how the system operates. Just good knowledge to have. But
so
back to what the reason
here,
here.
If I could just jump in for a second. So folks, what Kelly is talking about is the automatic tire inflation system installed on all ALL FedEx trailers. And we get very little training on that from FedEx, but it's a PSI system. And she just explained it to you on how it works. And I don't know about you, but I had a trailer fire in my days, and I know other people have as well. And it would be interesting, well, I can't do it now, to understand whether or not maybe having had that trailer fire was a result of not truly understanding the ATIS system and the indications that it was providing in advance of that trailer fire. So we're going to, obviously, as we always do, put these slides on the webinar page in our website. They'll go up tomorrow. Please go in there and scan that QR code for that driver video. We are under-informed, under-trained on this ATI system from FedEx. Have all your drivers watch that 4-minute video and try to avoid having a trailer fire. So this is extremely valuable information that you were not expecting to see today. And hopefully there'll be a lot of people watch this so that they can get that information. Sorry to interrupt, Kelly, but I thought that was extremely important. As we see, we're confident that nobody really truly understands the ATI system on our trailers. And so this is some critical information that we need to distribute. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. And that's exactly why we created the video. So today's tire solution, 70% of all tires in North America right now have some sort of a tire solution. Either they have ATIS or TPMS, tire pressure monitoring, hub-mounted pump, tire equalization. And these are considered part of the greenhouse gas technology. This benchmark study is by NACFE. And if you're not familiar with NACFE, they're definitely an organization worth checking out. The North American Council for Freight Efficiency. So they're a not-for-profit, non-biased entity that does a lot of the research on fuel economy, things that you can buy out there. And this little chart shows you just like how many people, how many fleets are adopting the different types of technology out there. Tire pressure inflation, the ATIS system, I just showed you on trailers, very high adoption. Tire pressure monitoring, getting there a little bit slower. But on the confidence reports, it's just kind of good to familiarize yourself with the different reports so that you can understand which of the different technologies out there can help you with the fuel efficiency and saving money and optimizing the way that you run your fleet. Two of them, the TPMS and ATIS, are rated by NACFE as being high on the scale in two ways. There's a whole lot of information and studies that have been done on them, so the amount of information available is high, and then the payback in number of years is low. So these two technologies have a payback of about a year and a lot of information kind of substantiating that. So where do you get an ROI on your investment in this type of technology? It's all of these areas. For fuel economy, they say that for about every 10 PSI you have running on the road, you can save 1% in fuel. So that number ends up being very high. And that's just a simple physics calculation of having more rubber on the road. So tire pressure affects tire life improvement, fuel economy, green technology, uptime. So we'll kind of go over a lot of these ROI factors. So again, improved fuel economy, every 10% running underinflated, 1% decrease in fuel economy. So you can expect about a $700 per year in fuel savings if you simply keep your tires up to the pressure that they were designed for. Tire life improvement, same type of a thing. If you've got less air in your tire, you have more tire on the road, you've increased friction, and for every 10% you're running underinflated, you can expect to decrease tire life by about 7%, amounting to about $350 per year. Roadside calls are another one. As a lot of you, if you ever were by the side of the road, you can see that the cost of those have gone up, and the time at which it takes someone to get there to help you out has gone up as well. So it's just, you have more downtime associated with the roadside calls.
And if I might jump in, Kelly, if we just back up one slide here. So we talked last week a little bit about the cost of roadside calls. Okay, so here's some actual facts. You may have heard them before. The number one cause of breakdowns in the FedEx fleet is not motors, it's not transmissions, it's blown tires. 95% of which can be prevented. 95% of the cause for blown tires is low tire pressure. We went through that in detail last week. Lower tire pressure increases the temperature in your tire and to the point that it can cause a blowout, or it will at least stress the tire. If you run it multiple days low, ultimately you're weakening the tire, and then at some point you're going to have a blowout. And what is the average cost in the FedEx fleet if that happens? Well, by the time you count missed revenue, the fact that you have to pay the driver, and if you're on a team run, you might lose 4,000 miles that week, depending on where you have the blowout. The average cost in the FedEx fleet is around $2,000. Okay, and so when PSI did the analysis on my fleet, remember I ran about 60 trucks and non-domiciles. They came to my location. They ran the analysis on my fleet. The ROI for me was 6 months. They expected that, given my experience, this was real information on what had gone on in my fleet the previous 2 years, the number of blowouts that we had experienced and the cost of those. They expected that it was going to save me over $2,000 a year per truck. Okay, now this is real numbers. This is not Tim making this stuff up, okay? This is real live numbers. Every time you have a blowout, somebody reaches in your pocket and pulls out $2,000. Now, the cost of one of these systems is about $1,200. That's a lot of cash up front, but the ROI is less than a year. You should strongly consider this, right? We had a conversation last week about using retread tires. Some guys had been talked into, you should never use a recap tire because they're less reliable. Well, you find out that's not true. You know how you can maintain a really good long-time relationship with your retread tires? Keep them inflated. So you can save money by buying recap tires. And if you have a tire pressure management system, then you can guarantee that you keep them inflated. Well, what about tire pressure management systems? Look, if you have one that just tells you what the temperature is or the pressure is on the side of the tire, you're no better off. Look, the weak point in this whole program is the driver. If you have a program that's driver dependent, it will be less effective. If you have a program that is maintenance technician dependent, it will be less effective. None of these guys like checking the tire pressure on trucks. They especially don't like checking the tire pressure on the inside tire of a tandem on your trucks. I had a huge proportion, not most, but a third of my trucks sitting at my shop in Birmingham. I had 4 mechanics. When PSI installed the system, came to help me install it on my trucks, the trucks that we chose to put it on, 50% of the tires were low pressure. And I had people whose only job it was every morning was to make sure all my tires were properly pressurized. I was paying people to do that, and I didn't have them properly pressurized. So I'm telling you, you don't either. There's not a fleet out there, whether it's FedEx or not FedEx, that doesn't have low tires. And every one of those low tires is a risk for a $2,000 failure. Or worse, if you blow a tire and the remnants of that tire come off the truck and hit the car behind you, not only do you have a blown tire breakdown, but now you got a preventable accident that could go really expensive. Okay, so these systems, I don't have this arrangement with PSI just so I can try to squeeze more money out of you. You need this system to effectively operate your fleet at its maximum ROI and minimum risk. Okay, so Kelly's a great salesperson, so is Jim, but you need to take it from me as a FedEx contractor. The difference between me having this data in my office versus trusting a driver to check the pressure or have a display in the cockpit telling him is night and day. I regularly called drivers going down the road and told him if he blows a tire, he's going to pay all $2,000 of the cost because he knows he's running with a low pressure tire, and I can see it. I know exactly when that tire went low, and I know he's ignoring it. Okay, and so I just want to insert that at this point because I hope it enables the conversation Kelly's going to have with you going forward here. This system, you need it. And there's a lot of folks selling it out there. None of them are sending you the data in the cloud so that it's at your fingertips, the guy who pays for the tires. Okay, so that's why I chose this system. That's why I worked so hard with PSI to get them involved with my ground force and bring this to you. And I'm so excited that they agreed to do that. So I'm going to get off my soapbox here and let Kelly keep going. But this is a very important solution to maximize the ROI. You can save $1,500 to $2,000 a year per truck. If you're looking for profit dollars, she's about to tell you how to do it.
Real quick, Kelly, there's a question before we get into deep into the TPMS on the Q&A here. Why is tire automatic pressure inflation widely adapted for trailers but not tire pressure monitoring? And then conversely, why is tire pressure monitoring more widely adapted for tractors but not the automatic pressure for inflation? One, we'll answer the first one quick. The having TPMS on trailers hasn't been it's starting to grow rapidly right now. A lot of the large fleets are either testing it and or will be running it now and or within the next few years. It's just more difficult to monitor, let's say, all the FedEx trailers. So they really have to have someone on their back end going at them, which is coming to fruition here because more fleets are going with it on their trailers. For tractors, the automatic tire inflation system runs through a hollow axle on the trailer. We pressurize the axle, so we would not be able to inflate your tires on your tractor because it is not a hollow axle. You have gears in that. Just a quick common question. So very great question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do get that one quite a bit. This is something that I just wanted to throw in because I'm seeing a lot more of this. So I don't know if you guys are encountering the TACS, the Tire Anomaly Classification System, drive-over readers at weigh stations that aren't really taking a pressure, but they're more taking a picture and image of the tire. And so at speeds of up to 100 miles per hour, it will know if you have a flat. And it's just really comparing the footprint. So it's taking like something that has more rubber on the road, comparing it to others. And with about a 95% accuracy, it's saying that there's a flat tire on the vehicle. And I have customers or even like tire dealers getting so many calls, they're literally parking a vehicle permanently at these weigh stations. And I've heard other states that are really expanding the use of these. And I've had fleets say that they're really getting pinged hard by these systems. Like they know on their routes exactly which weigh stations have adopted this technology. Idaho is in the process. They went from catching maybe 750 flat tires throughout 23 stations in a year to 1,000 with just one of these machines, and they're getting 5 more just in 2024. So you'll see these expanding, and the possibility of getting, an out of service, like an immediate out of service, is actually increasing with the adaptation of the technology. So moving on to just what the tire view system is that Tim is presenting here. We've got an in-cab monitor, very easy to install, that plugs right into your cigarette lighter to the USB port, however you want to do it. And really just, you could do an internally mounted sensor, but they're very difficult to keep track of. So this is what 95% of the industry uses, is the valve stem mounted cap sensor. And then the flow through cap sensors on your steer tires. They stick out a little bit too far to use on the drives, but you use those on the steers, where you're able to gauge and add air right there in the end without taking off the sensor itself. So you don't run the risk of putting it in the wrong spot or losing it. So again, cap sensors, and then flow through sensors. A repeater is a signal booster that really makes sure that you get that signal integrity. So that's something we really pride ourselves on, that even as those batteries start to wear a little bit over time, with this signal booster, you're still getting strong signal all of the time. And we have about a 99.9% signal integrity. So the system that we've put together for Tim looks just like this, where you've got flow through sensors again on your steers, an in-cab display. I'll talk about the flow through sensor, the flow through kits, the brackets on hoses for sensor management, the repeater, and this is what the gateway looks like, which is a telematics device that sends all of the tire temperature and pressure information into the cloud. It's very much a plug and play system, where this power harness plugs right in from the ring terminals on the battery to 2 weather packs that will power both your gateway and your repeater. So very much an easy plug and play installation of the system. But the flow through brackets are unique in that it allows you to keep the sensors mounted with the hub. And even when you change a tire, you don't take the sensors off. And then just to Tim's point around putting air in that inner dual, one of the nicest things about the flow through kit is that it brings the valve stem, if you will, from the inner dual to the outside. So with these check ports, you're able to check your tire pressure and add air to the inner and outer tire right from the outside very simply. And then your sensors stay mounted on the inside of this bracket, so they never get removed. So drivers don't accidentally not put them on, leave them at a truck stop, or put them on in the wrong place, so you don't know which tire you're actually monitoring. Data reliability. We had a big 3 tire manufacturer do a study on 5 commercially available TPMS systems, and they found that the collection rate or the reliability of those signals were 16 to 72%. That means that 16 to 72% of the time you actually knew what your tire pressure was, compared to our system being 99.9, which is just really important you don't want to get any false readings. You don't want to be chasing something that says you have an alert when you really don't. And I know we want to kind of be cognizant of time, because I definitely want to show you the platform. What you'll see in the sampling of the sensors is that the sensors on the tires send samples every 12 seconds. And it reports at a 5-minute interval. And then every 10 minutes, it reports up to the cloud. And that's what you'll see when I show you the platform. But if you do have a fast leak, that overrides these numbers and it reports it out immediately. There is a Tire View Live app available both for iPhones and Androids. But I know Tim's platform also allows you to get that information on your phone as well, but just another option. This case study is just a good picture.
Yeah, I'm sorry to talk over you here. So folks, what we've done with Tire View Live is not only brought you the best pricing on the nation's best solution, and that's independent data. That's not Tim Goff data. An independent third-party analysis shows that the best system even though you can get systems from Volvo or you can get them from REL, they've got that thing they have out there. There are a lot of different things you can do, and you can believe all the marketing data. But the third-party analysis says the PSI International solution is the best. It's the most reliable at providing you information. And this is my lot in life. I am trying to do my best to work through all these decisions that you have to make to be effective as a TSP owner, and get to the best decision for you and bring the best solution to you, so you don't have to do all that same work. It doesn't make sense for 1,700 contractors to do all the same work. I've done the work. I've brought it to you. The data backs it up. And so then you just need to make the decision. Do you want to spend the money or not? And we've talked about ROI. She's gone through that. Now, what we've also done is we bring this data from your tires into the My Ground Force platform under the partners link under the menu. You just click on partners, click on the Tire View Live app. We will log you in, and you will see the tire pressure and temperature for all your tires. Within the past 5 minutes, you're going to have accurate data. It collects every 12 seconds, but you get the data every 10 minutes or so, unless you have an emergency. And it's trend charted over time. You'll have more tire data than you ever thought possible. And then what I did is I put in the cockpit a little kit that had a tire pressure gauge and a glad hand airline that I could connect to the glad hand with the world's largest air compressor sitting right there. And the driver could air up his own tires. There was never any reason for a driver to drive with a low tire, ever. He knew immediately if he had one, the cockpit is going to be blasting. It's going to beep at him. He has to silence it. A few minutes later, it's going to start beeping at him again if he has a low tire. He can never say he didn't know. He will know. And then I gave him an ability to fix it. And so this is how you manage a key problem, right? You know what's going on, and you put the solution in the driver's hands. He doesn't have to make a decision. He just has to say, okay, that thing says I need to air up my tire. He goes and airs it up. He has the ability to do it. And now you have dramatically improved the likelihood that all your tires will stay fully inflated. You're going to save $1,500 to $2,000 a year per truck potentially, and you're not going to have any breakdown. So not only do you save money, but your service score is not going to be impacted by a blown tire. And as we know, that's becoming a bigger and bigger and bigger element of what's going on in the FedEx world. So what we've tried to do at My Ground Force is bring you the best ERP you can have in the FedEx world. It certainly is that. And then partner with the world's best solutions on things that help you maximize the value of your investment. And there's no question. I mean, I bought it myself, so I'm not saying something that I didn't do. And she's going to show you a case study here, and then we're going to look at the system itself. But you can see this data inside My Ground Force. You never have to leave it. It's always there, and your maintenance people should be all over it every single day. So I just wanted to thank Kelly. As far as the Drive app or the app that we have for Tire View Live, we haven't yet implemented that on our driver app, but we're going to work on that. That's a pretty new solution that they have. It's pretty sweet. But drivers have all that information already. It's on the display in the cab, and you already have it all. It's in the system inside My Ground Force. We're going to investigate how we might be able to make that TVL app available to you and your team. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you. This example I'm going to show you is really the auto inflate system. It's on a trailer, but the point of putting it up here is if you keep your tires inflated, so if, in other words, if you get the alerts and you listen to the alerts and you do what you're supposed to as far as keeping the tires inflated, this is what you can expect. So this particular fleet was finding that tires lasted about 16 months without paying attention to the tires in that way. And then with the auto inflate, this is a picture after 22 months. And what they found is they were able to keep their tires an average of 24 months. So they ended up like increasing tire life by 50% by just keeping them aired the way they're supposed to. On the CSA points, this was a quarter without it, and this was a quarter with it. Again, it's just important if you keep your tires inflated the way they're supposed to. It has a huge impact on CSA scores. They had a 63% reduction. And that was really it on that. So I am going to flip over real quick to the platform to kind of show you live. Does that come through on the screen, guys, or no?
It'll be not yet. Just let me say again, all these slides are going to get posted. Kelly's had to zoom through some very important information to get to this point. You're going to have the ability to go back through these slides and study that data that she just showed you, but you can understand in detail what the value of this system can do, and we're going to make that data available to you so we can see it, Kelly.
Perfect.
By the way, guys, this is Tire View Live. This is what you would see in my ground force.
Exactly. So this would be your fleet spooled up. And what you're seeing is everything that you have, all of the vehicles with the icon, according to what type of vehicle you have on the system. And so it's just a really nice in the glance. As a manager, you would probably start in the dashboard area, where in one glance you can see everything at once. And if you have anything that you need to attend to. So in what you're seeing at the top is low pressure, which is 10 to 19% underinflated. Anything flat, anything high pressure or high temperature. And the assets moving underinflated, I would typically start here, where if you have any assets that are actually on the road at speed running flat, if you did have any, if you click this, it would drop down and show you exactly which vehicles were running in that condition. And then also in the management kind of a realm, you know, keeping track as to whether your folks are actually paying attention to the alerts. So do you have alerts lasting longer than 5 days or more than one alert in 2 days? So this is just a bit of a snapshot as to how well your team is really monitoring the system and doing something about it. Again, to get the picture of the image of saving that tire life and saving fuel. In navigating the platform, if you hit the little eye here, you again get just like an image of the vehicle. You actually have the mileage, so you have odometer readings, which is for a maintenance person, you could actually start to understand when you might need to check tread depths and such on your vehicles. This one is really nice, you know, where you can really see whether drivers are doing the pre-checks that they're supposed to be doing. So in this report, this automatically runs one of all of the tires. This is a toggle between pressure and temperature. So if you wanted to look at just the temperature or just the pressure, you're able. And if you want to focus on any particular tire position, you could cross off anything you didn't want to look at and just look at anything in particular. And as I mentioned, every 10 minutes, it's sending information up into the cloud. So by tire position, this is all the individual readings on anything in this graph. If you wanted to look at maybe whether a driver really did the tire check and say that you had a low pressure on a right steer, and the driver said, well, I checked that before I went out, by very simply looking at that sensor individually and running a report in some particular time frame, you could see whether that thing left the yard, pumped to where it was supposed to, or whether it didn't. So it's just really good information that gets rid of that he said, she said, and you could literally run it as a report and run it out, export it as an Excel spreadsheet. The map shows you where all of your assets are. And if you click any individual, it actually shows you where it is, how fast it's running. So this is the color code of the speed at which the asset's moving. And you know if it's right at a yard or exactly where everything is at any time. So it's got the GPS function of it because it's telematics. It's in essence like a cell phone mounted to your tractor. And then back into the individual vehicle section, this is where you might do any of the input on the platform itself, where if for some reason you need to change out a sensor, there's a 6-digit sensor ID on the face of the sensor. And if you type it in here, you're able to change a sensor over the road. If you want to set your thresholds, this is where you would be setting what your cold pressure settings are on your steer and your drive and your tag if you have it on there. Configuring or putting the information about each of the vehicles within the fleet. And then the service log just keeps a running tally or track of who made a change on the system. So if any, if you're wondering who changed the tire pressure, you're able to go back and see historically what was done and who made that. There are some other nice filtering capabilities. Say if you wanted to go into a particular location, this fleet only has one location, but you could really filter it by a particular location. And if you wanted to look at all of the low pressures, so if you wanted to make sure that everything was where it needed to be before morning hit and folks came into work, it would be a quick way to do that. And then there's other kind of more in-depth capabilities on the reporting functionality, but that's most of what you would be using on a day-to-day basis. So I wanted to get done by about now so I could open it up for questions and kind of conversation. And I think at that point, I'll stop sharing. So Tim, back to you.
Yeah, I'm just working my way through some of these questions. So Christine, I know that you said you were looking at other systems after last week's conversation. I did the same thing. I've evaluated them all. There's a number of them out there. Zonar is the one that REL likes to push. That's mainly cap sensors. You don't get the kind of information that you get here. Remember that this is what we're trying to produce here is a system in which we can make it as easy as possible for your drivers to do what they're supposed to do. Right. And no driver likes reaching in behind the outside tire of a tandem when it's wet and muddy and snowy and salty to try to air up that inside tire. Well, the solution that we have in our My Ground Force package is what's called a flow-through bracket. Bolts to the outside of the outside tandem tire with a Kevlar hose that connects from the bracket to the tire stem or the valve stem for each tire. So then you can air up all your tires from the outside. She's showing that to you right now. So then all he does is connect his airline to the glad hand, disconnect red or blue, connect this one, roll back there, and from the outside of the tire, measure the pressure inside or outside. He already knows which one that he's going to do and air it up very simply without getting dirty. Okay, he can't complain that you're putting him in a situation and holding him accountable for stuff he doesn't want to do. He's a professional truck driver. But what we're doing is making it extremely easy. The other reason we don't like cap sensors is if you do air the tire up, you take the cap sensor off on some of these other solutions, then they forget to put it back on. Okay, and then now you're down a tire pressure system. We have flow-through sensors like that on the steer tires. That way you can air up the tire through the sensor. Okay, and so this entire package that we brought to you has been thought out in infinite detail to be the best solution for TSP owners like me. Okay, knowing the kind of drivers that we have access to and what the problems that we face, how can we mitigate as many of those as we can with one system? And that's what this system does. There's also a system out there called Halo. I saw it for the first time 2 weeks ago. I've done some research on it. I'm going to let Jim talk about Halo, but it is not this system. So anyway, go ahead, Jim.
Well, I was actually going to answer that. I saw the questions on Halo. I'm not here to talk bad about Halo. Halo does the amount of input to top off a perfectly good tire. I say that as it comes off as a tire inflation system, but what it really is. So if your tire is low, that's the only time it's going to start pumping. So you're already at a disadvantage there. It's not. Do not picture it as a normal tire inflation system that is on the trailer that's going to pump whether you're moving or stopped. So you have to be underinflated first to start. Secondly, it's going to pump very, very slow. We've done some testing on it, and it works. Like we said, it's gonna top off a perfectly good tire. But if you have a good sized leak in the tire, I wouldn't expect it to fill. Also, when you're stopped, let's say your truck stopped, it leaked tire air pressure overnight. Don't expect to start and fill up that tire as you go. Other than that, it's an okay system, but what the only way you know it's working is if you have tire pressure monitoring on it. So we've we just prefer with what we've seen over the course of time is putting tire pressure monitoring on your tires and monitoring them the way they should be monitored. But other than that, it's an okay system.
Right. Yeah, and the other thing is if, it's a little centrifugal pump and it really requires a vehicle to be moving for that pump to operate. So if you do have a low tire pressure, if it really is low, it's going to take a lot of miles and a lot of movement. And we all know that running on a low tire is no good for the tire. It's no good for the retreads. It's not good for the steel sidewalls in it. So you don't really want to be running on a low tire. So to Jim's point, if it is more of a topping off of the pressure, that's fine. But if it really is low, if you've picked up a nail, you don't really want to do that because you don't want to wait the number of miles and the amount of time you don't want to drive on that low tire. And that's what required to make that pump work. Just to add to it.
Yeah. So quick question here, Jim, Kelly, Christine asked, is there a particular digital pressure gauge that you recommend of the myriad of different handheld pressure device measuring devices that are available out there? Is there one you recommend over another?
We couldn't answer that question because we're not in the business of tire gauges. If we could answer that question how we would want to answer it, we'd say put our TPMS sensor on it. But I couldn't say we've done testing on different tire gauges. We found that liquid gauges, if we're going to go up against and see if our tire pressure monitoring system is working right, we've used a liquid gauge in the past. But other than that, no brand specific that we recommend on gauges.
Calibrating them periodically would be good, just so you know.
Yeah. So I know we went through a redesign of the system to make it even easier to self-install with just a couple connections in the cab. So talk a little bit about the installation process and how it's easily done by your normal mechanic to be able to put this in and get it connected, and how long that normally takes.
Right. And Kelly, you actually had a picture of it. I don't know if you can pull it up while I explain it. To install this, we wanted to make it so you don't have to go anywhere to install it. Kelly's going to show up a picture. You have a power wire, so it's simply going to go to your battery. And that off of that wire has two different connectors, and it's straight plug and play. One plugs into the repeater that Kelly was talking about that boosts the signal, and then one plugs into the sending unit, which is the power cellular unit. So once you, as long as you can plug in wires to each other and be able to mount the box in a safe spot, anyone should be able to do this. The in-cab display is something that is done just with the USB. Okay, so here's what I was talking about here. That bottom wire there is the power, the main power, and that just goes to your power and ground on your battery. And then it simply has connectors, and those connectors, if you can go back to that, Kelly, those connectors just are simply plugged right into that wire. So no splicing, just all it is pretty much the toughest part is going to be routing the wires. So you get a little bit dirty routing them where you want to put them. But other than that, we tried to make it so that anybody can install this.
Jim, how long does it normally take? Once you've done it once or twice, what does it take you to do this?
To route all the wires, I was training someone how to do it. Their first time trying it took 45 minutes. That's a very first effort. Then you got to put on your flow through brackets, so that'll add another 15, 20 minutes. So I would put an hour in for your first try. Your second and third truck will go much smoother. Really, you're just trying to figure out where you're going to route them to. But we've done a lot of these, and first go around should be about an hour.
Yeah, once you learn how to adjust the tractor specific data so that the information is reporting back into the system, into the TireView Live system, with tractor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the one that's reporting from this particular sensor set. That's not difficult to do. What I found is that support is easy to reach at PSI, and they're extremely helpful. There's also a lot of videos and written procedures that make this not difficult. And paying somebody to do it is you're not paying a lot. So it's not a very expensive thing to do to put it in your system. Put it in your trucks, I should say.
I'll just share this real quick too, Tim, to your point. I don't know if you can see my screen, but on a resources tab on our website, there are a lot of videos, install guides, but again, under resources, install sales sheets, videos, and how to do a lot of the different installs that we're talking about. So that might be just another resource as well. Like there's a how to install the flow through bracket video if you needed to go do that. So
look, there are folks who will come around the country and install this for you. It's going to cost you about $500 a truck. So that is available. It can be sourced. I can connect you with the right folks, but you can probably do it for 20% of that with just a regular tire guy or regular mechanic. And so that would probably be the most cost-effective way forward. But I can't emphasize enough the value of having this kind of data, and that's the differentiation. Not only are the sensors better, but the data they're picking up is also more accurate, and it's in the cloud, so you always have it. You just can't go wrong with this system. It's $1,200 is a big per truck is a big hit for most contractors to put something on a truck. But if you think about it, every day you don't do it, you're losing money. So you could, for instance, finance it yourself by putting it on a credit card. We looked at all kinds of different solutions, having someone else finance it for you through a lease system, et cetera, et cetera. And what we found is it was just way expensive and no one was interested in doing it. If you've got a credit card, for instance, that's charging you 20% interest and you have a 6-month ROI, you're going to pay an extra $120 to finance it for 6 months while it pays for itself. That would be one way to look at it. So if you invest your own $1,200 in it and you could get 8% at the bank, then you can do the calculations and see that you're going to get an 8% return on that within less than a year. Okay, within 6 months, you're going to have made money on the money that you invested in your company. This is an investment. It lasts a long time. It doesn't wear out in a year. It can be moved from truck to truck, from new truck to used truck to lease truck to rental truck. You can do all of that. And then you just update the information in the system on what truck you put it on. And then the reporting is up and running. It's not a difficult thing to do once you've done it a couple times. And, it's not perishable. It's going to be around a long time. Once you saw that thing that Kelly held up, I mean, it is engineered to a very high level. I've been through the factory a couple of times. I know something about manufacturing. These folks are doing an outstanding job, and they make this in San Antonio. It's not shipping to you. It's not drop shipping to you from Shenzhen. Okay, so it's made in the USA. It works great. Lasts a long time. I couldn't recommend it more highly. And I really appreciate them working with us to give you the lowest possible price you can find. You saw that list of partners that they have with UPS and FedEx and Old Dominion, all these other contractors, all these other companies out there where you're getting the same pricing that they get. And again, if you went to the local Love's to try to buy this, assuming that they had it, it will cost you a lot more. And they especially charge you a lot more for monitoring. So anyway, hopefully we've brought some value today. Jim, you have anything else to add? Kelly?
Just that if, like Tim said, we're very easy to get a hold of. Would love to chat with you if you got any further questions. Just let us know.
Appreciate you stopping in.
Yeah, we really appreciate them taking the time today. They're incredibly great folks to work with. It's a family-owned business in the past. Just an excellent bunch of people. To order this system from us, you can go to the Tire View Live tab on our website and just click order. Or you can send me an email, tim.goff@mygroundforce.com, and I will take it from there. But these systems turn around in a couple of weeks, and you'll be on your way to saving a lot of money, a couple $1,000s a year per truck. So we really appreciate them being on today. Next week, we're going to shift gears a little bit. We talked about, in order to become a FedEx contractor, you got to buy your ticket to the circus, right? There's no new runs being added out there that are available to the general public. And so if you want to be a contractor, or you want to grow your contract business, you're going to have to buy something. And there's a few things to buy out there. So it's always, how do I buy it? What do I do? What are the risks? So next week, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about entry strategies, how to get in, or to expand your existing business. It's still kind of the same conversation. We're going to have Norb Kohler on. Norb is a contractor. He's a big contractor. He's a My Ground Force customer, and he also does some broker work. And so he's an expert and a very honest man on how you can get into the business in the most effective way possible. We'll talk about entry strategies. We'll talk about financing strategies, truck strategies. We'll talk about all that next week. The week after that, we're going to talk about exit strategies. So some of you may have said, okay, you've met your financial goals in the FedEx world and you're ready to exit. Okay, well, what's the best way to exit? What should you consider? And we're going to talk about how to do it tax-free. That was extremely important. And so we're trying to bring you up. We've talked to you about how to leverage different systems in your company to improve your profitability. And now we're going to talk to you about how to get into the business in a cost-effective way, and then how to exit the business without paying tax. And then on the week after that, we're going to see what we do, because I'm still waiting for folks to send me what they want to hear. You know me, I got plenty of topics we can cover, but we'll have something ready for you to go on the last week. Also today, we're going to hand out a free system. Kelly, in her infinite generosity as the VP of Sales, has worked with Jim, and we're gonna give one lucky attendee today a free PSI International system, the My Ground Force package. So we're going to announce that in the email that'll go out tomorrow. And we appreciate everybody attending today. Remember, we'll be back next week at 2:00. And if you got any questions, you know how to reach me. Thanks again, folks. Until next week, you guys take care.
Thank you all.
Thank you.